Hi, this is Dr. Francis Yu. In this video, we are going to go over finding your MBTI type, the basics. And again, I'm Dr. Francis Yu, and I am an MBTI certified practitioner. So a brief overview of the history that you should understand before going on. Dr. Carl Gustav Jung, MD, he was a Swiss psychiatrist, very active in the 20th century, and he formulated a typology system that is based on preferences on the patients that he worked with. And this system was based on his empirical observations. This was at a time where the statistical model and that perspective was not pervasive in medicine and healthcare. The next part of the history that's important is that Myers and Briggs, the M and the B in MBTI, they were a mother-daughter team, right? Catherine Cook Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers, and neither of them had academic psychological education, but they spent a lot of effort and of their energies into studying Dr. Jung's work, and eventually they developed the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI. And the important thing to note that it is a self-report questionnaire, meaning that whoever would take these questions, they're essentially answering it from their own perspectives and what they perceive is going on with them. And their objective was to make it available for public use, for personal development, to help in choosing careers and professional development and along those lines. And today, the official MBTI is essentially carried by and regulated by the Center for Applications of Psychological Type, CAPT, and the Myers and Briggs Foundation. Now, there are a slew of unofficial organizations and quote-unquote tests you'll find online. And the one I want to point out is 16 personalities, which it's been quite common for people to find. They use the MBTI style terminology. They're 4-letter and they add a 5th letter, but they actually use the big five personality traits, which is a completely different, not related at all system. So if you have found or thought your type or identified your type by using the 16personalities.com information, then you have to know that that is not the MBTI at all, and you should just forget those aspects if you want to learn the MBTI. Now, if you want to learn more about the Big Five, that's a different story, but here we're talking about the MBTI. All right, so what are the big uses of the MBTI? So for personal uses, self-awareness, personal growth and development, and professional growth and development. And for group uses, conflict management, team growth and development. And there have been plenty of companies, organizations that have used this for their team interactions and for team development. Now, moving on to the theory, now that we went over the basics of the history and some caveats about the organizations. So the example that is given first is writing. So right-handed people prefer to write with their right hand, right? It seems so common sense, and it almost doesn't need to be said, but it's important to follow along here. But right-handed people are able to write with their left hand, but just not as well. Similarly, people that are left-handed prefer to write with their left hand, but they're able to write with their right hand, just not as well. So the theory, moving along with the actual letters here, so each person prefers, of these four dichotomies, you have extroversion, introversion, sensing, intuition, thinking, feeling, judging, perceiving. Those are the four dichotomies. Each person prefers one element, one of these from each pair. So for example, if a person preferred extroversion, sensing, thinking, judging, their type would, the MBTI type would be ESTJ. If they preferred introversion, intuition, feeling, perceiving, their MBTI type would be INFP. Now, using the handwriting example, the key thing to remember is that a person who prefers extroversion prefers it just because that is more comfortable and something that comes more naturally to them. But they can use or be acquainted with introversion, but just not as well. Similarly to how someone who prefers right-handedness and isn't forced to write with their left hand will always prefer to write with their right hand. So one of the issues with the MBTI is that misconceptions are rampant, and one of the reasons for this is just the words that are used, the terminology. So introverted does not mean shy. Extroverted does not mean outgoing. Feeling does not mean emotional. Judging does not mean judgmental. Now, this isn't where we're going to go into each of the letters. This is just to introduce you to the basics of the MBTI. And a quick note on terminology, you may have noticed already. The MBTI, the term MBTI, is used by people to refer to actually two very related things, but different things. The inventory, so I don't call it a test because really it was a questionnaire to help indicate your MBTI type. But sometimes I will use the term type with quotation marks. The MBTI is used to refer to the MBTI questionnaire in which you click or check off or circle the answers to these questions. And MBTI is also used to refer to the MBTI type. Just for clarification, when I say MBTI, I will mean the questionnaire, and I'll say MBTI type when I'm referring to the type. Now, the official and best way to identify your MBTI type is to take the official MBTI. There are plenty of free sources and questionnaires online. I can't vouch for any of them. It's just there are a lot of them, and I've only taken a few. But in my perspective, the best way is to take the official MBTI that has been created and modified by the official organizations, and then you get your interpretive result and your interpretive report. This is the key part here. Your result needs to be interpreted and verified with a professional, because your result from taking the questions, answering the questions, may be different from your actual true type. A lot of people, or most people, just take the MBTI or some free, maybe not great version of it online, think, oh, that must be my type, and that's just it for them. But that's not really the case. The great thing is the MBTI, the official organizations now have an online version that does the verifying while you actually take it. So if for whatever reason you can't get in touch with a professional or you just prefer to do it yourself, there is an online version. that you can take to identify your type. But in the end, I believe it's best to review those results with a professional. So here's a sample instructions and procedure to find the MBTI type. So number one, you take the MBTI with clear instructions, whether that's paper or it's sent to you or it's the online version. Number two, I, meaning me, not you, I get to your result, but I don't share it with you. And then three, you watch my official MBTI presentation where I go over the background, the theory, the explanation of the preferences, what exactly does EISNTFJP mean, and along the way, as I explained E and I, it's quite thorough, and then you would choose which one that you prefer, E or I. Then on the S and N section, you would choose S or N. In the T and F section, you would choose T or F. In the J versus P section, you would choose J or P based on the descriptions and explanations that's part of the presentation. So by the end, you will have a 4-letter type based on this explanation, right? So then this result, based on your reporting, self-reporting from this presentation, is compared with the result from the questions that you answered. Now you get your result. Now, it's great if these two results are the same, but it's not uncommon for them to be different. Usually, I've seen, ideally, you want no difference, but having one letter different, meaning let's say you got INFP from the presentation, but INFJ from the questionnaire, that's still okay, meaning it won't be as difficult to find your actual true type, but there are instances in which people have multiple discrepancies. So really, these results are used as a starting point to find your best fit type, the type that is really you. And this is done by reading through the official descriptions that the MBTI booklet has, the official descriptions of the 16 types. Now they're just a page or two long, so it's not too intensive, but it does require some effort to do some digging. And then you identify the one that best fits you. Now, there are still some instances in which this is still not conclusive, and someone maybe I'm not sure, and those things can happen. So I have some remarks. So basically, this means the MBTI results are not 100% accurate. So to me, taking the MBTI is not really necessary to find your MBTI type. And for some people, actually, I would encourage them not to take the MBTI because it would distract them from actually trying to find their type. And this is what I'll get into soon. There's something called the MBTI Step 2, and that is immensely more useful in finding your MBTI type than the Step 1, which is the one that is the shortest and most simple version. And the next remark is that though it's not expensive, the MBTI does cost money, the paying for the questionnaire, getting the results, and things like that. And a professional, obviously, they're professional because they're paid. Really, you want help from someone who knows what they're talking about. There are plenty of people who don't, even if they think they do. And really, the point is that knowing MBTI type can be immensely powerful and useful, but it requires investing your attention, energy, and more. So MBTI steps 1, 2, and 3. So we place the obligatory USMLE joke, but it's so basically step 1. It's what most people think of the MBTI. The step 2, what it does for each of the 8 letters preferences, it breaks them down into 5 components. And I think it is just so much more useful for finding your actual type. So let's say you are quote unquote in the middle between J and P and F and T. The step 2 breaks down those into more fine, detailed differences to help you see what may be going on. And for me, this should be the standard for anyone serious about finding their type. And step 3 is it's a more in-depth instrument that's only used for one-to-one counseling and coaching. So my methods to find your type. So method 1, this is the more involved way. You would take the MBTI step 2. You would get a copy of the digital or physical booklet that has the official descriptions of the 16 types, as well as an introduction to the theory and what the MBTI is about. And then you would review the results with me and we will go through it together. And the method 2, which is it costs less in terms of investment of money and time. And so it's essentially watching my MBTI presentation and following the instructions to find what your type may be. And then we review them together as I answer your questions and I go over what the what discrepancies may mean. Concluding remarks. So finding your type. It really is a process of personal discovery and development, meaning the actual process of finding your type is equally beneficial in your personal development. It's not about, aha, this is my type. The purpose isn't, oh, now I know my 4 letters, now I know exactly who I am, and now I know everything about me. No, that's not the point. Really, those that are obsessed with, oh, I have to know my 4 letters, I'm going to take these 20 tests to find them. In my opinion, those people who are lazy and don't want to invest their attention, money, whatever else into actually the process of personal discovery and development. These are people who want an easy answer for their life as opposed to doing the difficult inner work to actually figure things out. And those who outsource this inner work, meaning, oh, this is too hard, someone else to kind of do it for me. But you can't really outsource personal development and your inner life. Right? It's just by definition you can't. So really, the purpose of identifying the MBTI type and knowing MBTI type is a self-awareness and development using your type. It's investing in yourself for personal wellness, cultivation, professional satisfaction and authenticity, and improving relationships.